Hey guys, this is Nia with Candor, and today we're going to talk about something really important. I'm going to walk you through the top 5 mistakes that people make at interviews all the time, and that could totally cost you the job. So we're going to go through what these mistakes are, how you can avoid them, and we're also going to talk about why they're so bad. So stick around until the end. I don't want you making any of these mistakes in your interviews, and I'd love to be able to help give you a tiny boost and getting to a much better spot where you're interviewing with these very, very simple, easy to follow tips. First, most importantly, go in an interview with a strategy. The biggest mistake I see is people just go in an interview trying to just Hail Mary it with absolutely no strategy in mind. That is horrible. That is going to cost you the job, and that is absolutely the top reason why people don't get hired. You worked so hard to get your resume in order, to fix your LinkedIn, to get this application, to get this interview. Don't give up now. Just because you have something scheduled, it's not the end. You still have to work at it until you have an offer. So go in with a strategy. And the strategy I recommend is making sure that in the interview, you have a few things you want to communicate and you don't leave anything on the table. You literally have a checklist. And as you're going through, you're checking things that you've communicated about yourself that'll make you a competitive candidate. If you get in a position where for some reason you don't get to everything on your list, and we know that these things are critical for you to get the job, then I want you to follow these tips in how to fix it. I'm going to link the video below, so just take a look at that. It's super quick. I really want you to know this like fail-safe strategy of how to fix it if you can't get everything in there. Number 2, biggest mistake is don't answer questions immediately. I see this all the time. Just because an answer comes to mind doesn't mean that's the answer you should give. The best candidates and people that get leveled higher in tech are people who are able, not just to give an example, but they're able to talk about a higher level on top of that example. So for instance, if you're asked a question as a product manager on how you are able to work with stakeholders or how you improve the process on your team, and maybe your answer is that you implemented Trello, just as an example. This is amazing. However, if you add another layer on top of it, talking about as a product manager, I'm incredibly organization and process driven, and every team I join, I do X, Y, and Z, and I have a philosophy and methodology that includes this, this, and that, and here's a specific example where I implemented Trello. Your answer just went from like a C answer to like an A++ answer. So not just being specific about giving an example, but being strategic about how does that example tie into how you want to be perceived as a professional. That makes a very, very, very big difference overall in whether or not you get the job and then which level you get of the job, which is really critical. Which brings me to number 3. And engineers, I'm looking at you. It's not gonna be pretty. Number 3 is practicing the wrong way. Now, I know all of you are working incredibly hard to land these jobs, and I understand it's a complete grind to be on LeetCode or on other platforms that are helping you with your technical interviews or even non-technical interviews. I get it. But one of the biggest mistakes people make is practicing in isolation. So when I say that, if you're just sitting there solving every LeetCode problem that you've ever seen that's ever known by man, that is amazing and more power to you. But if you want to be leveled higher, then you also need to practice how to communicate your solution. So not just solving it, but communicating how you solved it, why you solved it a specific way. And just practicing with peers doing that is incredibly powerful. And the engineers I see getting higher level offers are people who are able to do that communication plus able to really provide that kind of same insight in system design questions, not just in coding. So being able to do that is crucial. And as a product manager, as a product designer, these skills are super transferable to you as well. Because if you're talking about a solution, but you're not talking about why you're solving something a certain way or what trade-offs a certain decision has. So for instance, as a product designer, if you're talking about an app critique, but you don't talk about the business impact of some of the suggestions for improvement you have, that's a problem. So being able to really articulate and practicing, not just talking, but talking with purpose and talking with strategy and talking to show how senior you are and how knowledgeable you are is crucial. 4, this mistake happens a lot. I really want you to avoid it. Number 4 is not getting enough information. Now, in interviews, the person that wins is either the best storyteller or the most informed person, and most likely both. So the way I want you to run your interviews is like a reconnaissance session. You have things that you want to communicate that we're making a checklist for. Once you hit your checklist, the rest of the interview becomes about you gathering information. Because if you have information that other candidates applying for the job just simply don't, you are going to get the job and they won't. Most importantly, I really want you to have an opportunity to ask clarifying questions. Ask about how a question relates to what's happening on the team. Use the time at the end of the interview to ask additional questions that give you more information no one on the team has. And then in follow-up interviews, being able to leverage and use that information to paint yourself as the most competitive candidate. This is absolutely both easy to do, like it's low-hanging fruit. Not a lot of people do it, and it'll give you a mad advantage when it comes to getting hired. And last, this is my favorite one, and it's gonna hurt for some of you, I'm really sorry, but the last one, it's really important, is stop being too positive. Just stop, just like stop. It's really bad for you. So what I mean by that is some of us have been taught that in interviews, you sort of have to tie everything in a neat bow at the end. So for instance, when you interview and somebody asks you about a conflict, that you have to choose an example that's resolved. Or somebody asks you about your greatest weakness, and you're like, but it's also my strength, it's kind of a secret. Don't do it. It's not gonna get you anywhere. In fact, it is actually gonna get you somewhere. It's gonna get you out of the running for the job. So I want you to be really conscious of the fact that you are human, and the fact that you have learned from failures and learned from difficult experiences is what people hire for. People want to hire people they want to work with. And so nobody wants to hire somebody who's a know-it-all. Nobody wants to hire somebody who is very arrogant. Nobody wants to hire somebody who is the best at something. But in this kind of like, let me show you way. People want to hire people that are the best, but they want to hire the people that are the best, that have humility, and people who have high empathy and can empower others around them to be great as well. And so the examples that are actually the best in a behavioral interview are examples of times when things were difficult for you. And you could show a level of both observation and introspection that really paint how you make decisions that are difficult, that really show how you handle yourself under pressure and impress the interviewer by your ability to not just overcome these situations, but learn from them and empower people around you to become much better at their job from what you've learned. So those are just the 5 tips that at the very surface, almost everybody gets at least one of these wrong. And I promise you, if you work on the 1 or 2 things from this list that you are guilty of, your interviews will improve enormously. And I'm so excited to hear how it goes for you guys. Definitely let me know in the comments what you think, and follow and subscribe for more hot interview tips on how to land your dream job in tech. Can't wait to see you in the next video.